Something hurt you. Maybe it was a word. Maybe it was a silence. Maybe it was a person you trusted choosing someone else. You didn't scream. You didn't fall apart. You just went quiet and started doing things you didn't fully understand. That's what this is about. Because when emotional pain hits, your brain doesn't respond the way you think it does. It doesn't process it. It doesn't heal it. It buries it. And then it hands you 3 very specific behaviors to perform while the wound sits underneath, untouched. Psychologists have studied this for decades, and what they found is not comforting. It is, however, true. Here are the 3 things you do when you're hurt, and why they're quietly making everything worse. The first thing you do is disappear. Not physically. You still show up. You still answer messages. You still go to work. Laugh at the right moments. Nod when someone's talking. But something inside you pulls back. You stop initiating. You stop sharing the real stuff. You keep conversations just shallow enough that no one can reach the part of you that's bleeding. Psychologists call this emotional withdrawal. And it feels like self-protection. That's the trick of it. It feels like wisdom. Your nervous system learned a long time ago that closeness equals risk. That if you let someone see you fully, they have the power to wound you fully. So when the wound comes anyway, when someone does hurt you, your brain files it as evidence. Evidence that the risk is real. Evidence that the wall needed to be higher. John Bowlby, the British psychiatrist who built the foundation of modern attachment theory, spent decades studying exactly this. He found that when people experience relational pain, they don't simply withdraw from the person who hurt them. They withdraw from connection itself. The nervous system doesn't distinguish between this specific person is dangerous and closeness is dangerous. It just registers. Pain came from out there. Pull back, so you pull back. And you tell yourself it's healthy. You say you're just protecting your energy. You say you need space to think. And maybe some of that is true. But here is what's also true. The longer you stay behind the wall, the more the wall starts to feel like you. The distance that was supposed to be temporary starts to feel permanent. And the version of you that used to reach out, used to trust, used to be vulnerable, that version starts to seem naive, stupid even, like someone you've outgrown. You haven't outgrown them, you've just buried them. The second thing you do is replay. Your mind goes back, over and over and over, to the moment it happened, to the exact words, to the tone of voice, to what you said, what you should have said, what you wish you'd said instead. You reconstruct the scene with the precision of a forensic investigator searching for the thing you missed, the thing you could have done differently, the clue that might have changed everything. This is called rumination, and the research on it is sobering. Susan Nolen-Hoeksema, a Yale psychologist who spent much of her career studying how people respond to emotional pain, found that people who ruminate don't process their pain faster. They process it slower. They feel it longer. They are significantly more likely to fall into depression, and they are less likely to take meaningful action to improve their situation because they're too busy mentally reliving the situation to move through it. The replay loop feels productive. That's why you keep running it. It feels like if you just analyze it enough, you'll finally understand it. You'll find the flaw in yourself that caused it, fix that flaw, and make sure it never happens again. But understanding a wound and healing a wound are not the same thing. You can understand exactly why someone hurt you and still be just as hurt. The mind mistakes analysis for resolution. It keeps going back to the scene because it thinks the answer is in the scene. It isn't. The answer is never in the scene. And yet you go back anyway. At 2 a.m. when you're trying to sleep. In the shower. In the middle of a conversation with someone who has nothing to do with it. Your brain keeps loading the file. Keeps pressing play. This is not weakness. This is biology. Your brain is built to find patterns and prevent future threats. When pain comes from a source you didn't predict, especially a person you trusted, your threat detection system doesn't just flag the event, it obsesses over it. It runs simulations. It needs to believe that if it just thinks hard enough, it can prevent this from ever happening again. But pain from people doesn't work like a math problem. There is no solution that guarantees safety. There is no level of analysis that eliminates risk. And every hour you spend in the replay loop is an hour your nervous system spends in a state of low-grade alarm. Stressed, hypervigilant, exhausted. You are not solving anything. You are just hurting twice. The third thing you do is perform. This one is the quietest, and possibly the most damaging. When you're hurt, you do not fall apart in front of people. You perform OKness. You become slightly more cheerful than usual. You make the joke before anyone can feel the tension. You volunteer information about how fine you're doing, how busy you are, how you've really moved on. You pre-answer the question no one asked. Why? Because being seen as hurt feels more dangerous than being hurt. Brené Brown, a research professor at the University of Houston who has studied vulnerability and shame for over 2 decades, found that the fear of being perceived as weak or broken is one of the most powerful drivers of human behavior. Not the fear of pain itself, the fear of being seen in pain. The fear that if someone witnesses your wound, they will use it against you, or pity you, or simply leave. So you perform strength you don't feel. You perform certainty you don't have. You perform healing you haven't done yet. And here is the cruelest part. The performance works. People believe it. They see you seeming fine and they treat you as fine. No one asks the question you're secretly hoping someone will ask. No one sees past the act. And so you feel 2 things simultaneously. Relieved that the secret is safe, and profoundly alone because the secret is safe. The performance keeps you invisible, and invisibility is exactly the thing that keeps wounds from healing. Because wounds don't heal in isolation. They heal in connection, in being witnessed, in having someone look at the part of you that's broken and not flinch. That is not weakness. That is, according to decades of psychological research, the actual mechanism of recovery. But you can't access that mechanism while you're performing. The act of performing seals the wound shut from the outside while it continues to fester underneath. And the longer the performance runs, the harder it becomes to drop. Because dropping it would mean admitting that the person who seemed fine was never fine. And that feels like a kind of failure. It isn't. But it feels that way. So now you see the pattern. You get hurt. You withdraw to protect yourself. You replay the event obsessively in search of understanding. And you perform OKness to avoid the vulnerability of being seen. 3 behaviors. All of them feel like survival. All of them, in the long run, slow the healing down. What do you do instead? You do the harder thing. You stay present instead of disappearing. Not to the person who hurt you, but to yourself. You notice the withdrawal impulse and you name it. You say, even if only silently, I'm pulling back because I'm scared, not because I'm healed. That distinction matters. You interrupt the replay loop, not by forcing yourself to stop thinking, but by giving your mind something else to do with the pain. Write it down. Say it out loud. Move your body. The research of James Pennebaker, a social psychologist at the University of Texas at Austin, showed that people who wrote expressively about painful experiences for just 15 to 20 minutes across several days showed measurable improvements in emotional and physical health. Not because writing fixes things, because it moves the pain out of the loop and into a different part of the brain, one that can actually process it. And you drop the performance, not in front of everyone, not all at once, but in front of one person, one real conversation, one honest answer to the question, how are you? And you watch what happens. Most of the time, the person you tell doesn't flinch. Most of the time, being witnessed doesn't destroy you. Most of the time, you feel, for the first time since it happened, slightly less alone. That is where healing actually starts. Not in the analysis, not in the wall, not in the act. In the moment you stop pretending and let someone see what's real. Something hurt you. That is not the end of the story. But the 3 things your brain is doing right now, withdrawing, replaying, performing, those are not the path through. They are the path around. And the path around doesn't lead anywhere except back to the same wound, waiting. The path through is quieter, slower. It requires you to sit with the discomfort instead of managing it. It requires you to be seen instead of protected. It requires you to trust that the part of you that's hurting is not the weakest thing about you. It might be the most human thing about you. Something hurt you, And now you know exactly what your brain has been doing with it. The question is what you choose to do next.